Discover your inner goddess and live up to your highest value and most abundant potential. Welcome to Grateful Goddesses, a podcast that empowers you to unleash your inner goddess and take the leap of faith to live your best life. Your guide, Karen Pulver, joins her fellow goddesses in soulful conversations about gratitude, personal growth, authentic living, and a bevy of topics affecting women today. Let's start the show with your host, Karen Pulver.
Welcome, everyone, to Grateful Goddesses. So, are you thinking that you might have an idea, a product, something that you want to solve, you want to help people with, but you just don't know where to start? You have no idea how to be an entrepreneur. How do you do this? You've been watching Shark Tank every week. You want to go on the show, but you just don't know where to start. Well, there's a lot to learn. And today on Grateful Goddesses, we're going to be talking to an amazing entrepreneur, Randi Shinder. If anyone knows beauty, it's Randi, a self-proclaimed beauty junkie. Randi has created and launched 5 beauty brands so groundbreaking that they have formed new categories in fragrance and skincare, including her latest ventures, I Smell Great, and the Greatness Beauty and Lifestyle brands. Randi's foray into the competitive beauty market began in 2002 with the very successful award-winning launch of CLEAN Perfume. CLEAN offered a unique fragrance experience meant to recreate everything in Randi's world that was the epitome of clean and mimicked that universal just stepped out of the shower feeling. Randi's next venture partnered with multi-platinum recording artist Jessica Simpson to create a prestige beauty brand, Dessert Beauty, the only sensory beauty experience based on scent and flavors. 2 offshoots to Dessert Beauty, Dessert Treats and Sweet Kisses, went into the mass market and obtained major national distribution. Dessert was new, innovative, and fun, and became the first brand to exceed 10 million in sales at Sephora. In 2005, Randi launched the first ever micro-injected collagen lip plumper, Lip Fusion, under a new sexy and scientific company called Fusion Beauty. Lip Fusion became an instant success and an anomaly in the industry, selling 2.5 million units in the first 9 months at Sephora alone, including 2 sellouts. Fusion Beauty continued to flourish as the marquee brand of Randi's beauty empire, with breakthrough products that attracted a strong consumer following all over the globe. Randi paired CLEAN Perfume and Fusion Beauty brands under the corporation Fusion Brands Inc., which she later sold her majority stake in 2006. Randi continued to run the company until 2009, upon which time she sold her remaining equity. Randi's re-entry into the industry came again with innovation and groundbreaking technologies. In 2014, she decided that smelling good was not good enough, and along came I Smell Great, a new line of fragrances based on pure extractions and scent sphere technology. A true disruptor brand, I Smell Great empowers women to mix, match, create, reactivate, and be great. Randi is now in the process of creating a world of greatness in various categories, including beauty, lifestyle, home, and apparel. This includes greatbeauty.com, where she leads as the site's beauty authority. Randi was born and raised in Montreal, Canada, and now splits her time between Canada and the United States. Randi has 2 grown children who inspire her every day as she watches them build and define their own life paths filled with greatness. Welcome, Randi Shinder, to Grateful Goddesses.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you for the nice introduction.
So nice to see you, Randi. I want to read you something. Okay. The truth about entrepreneurship is success takes time, takes patience, and takes making mistakes and learning from them. Can you relate?
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. I believe that everything that I've ever done is a stepping stone to the next thing that I was going to do. And I think that continues to this day.
But so how did you think, like all of the products, all of the different things that you've come up with, how did these ideas come to you?
Well, CLEAN began as I never wore fragrance, and I'm still very particular when it comes to fragrance. I realized that I sometimes would take a shower and I just had, I don't know if I just had my eldest daughter, who you know, or both the kids because they're a year apart, but I was very busy. And I worked, I never really stopped working, but sometimes I'd just go join my girlfriends for lunch or an evening, and somebody would say, "You smell very good. What are you wearing?" And I would just say, "Well, I just took a shower." I'd never wore any fragrance at all. So I thought to myself, well, there has to be this universal feeling that many women have where they just want to smell good. Maybe when you walk into an elevator and fragrance is overpowering you, you feel uncomfortable. I think scent and fragrance, it's the closest sense to the brain, your olfactory system, and for me, it's very sensitive. So I realized that I had to figure out a way to make something that smelled just soapy, shower, fresh, and clean, that universal, just up out of the shower feeling that women everywhere could appreciate. And I believed that there had to be at least a million me's out there. And that's how I approach pretty much all the product that I create, is that if I really want this in my life for whatever reason, there have to be a million other women like me who feel the same way about it. And that has served me well as I guess it's kind of like the DNA of building a brand. And then I started to think, I wonder if the name clean is taken, and it wasn't, which was mind blowing.
Right.
And I took the URL cleanperfume.com. I really didn't know very much about being online, and I had the opportunity to preview it at a Grammy Depot. And then people were running. I was answering emails all night from people looking for it. It had been written up in People as the first item in Style Watch, and celebrities were asking for it and grabbing it. I had no product. I had leaking bottles with labels. I didn't know what I was doing. I had no cartons. They put it all over the W Hotel in Times Square. And I remember I got the call that day after the Grammy Depot that it was being written about in People magazine. And I didn't even know what that meant. And I actually stayed up all night. All the emails came in. I answered every one of them myself. And I never had to call a buyer because people were running into stores asking for a clean perfume. And I can remember my then husband saying to me, there must be a perfume crisis in the US. What is going on? And from there, I mean, honestly, I'd love to say the rest is history, but the truth is the rest is a lot of work. It's all just, having a real passion for the work you do. After Clean came Dessert with Jessica Simpson. She was a big fan of Clean Perfume. And her management called me and said, we'd really like to do something with you. And I was thinking, well, it was actually born out of a very competitive spirit that creeps up now and then. I don't necessarily feel that way as much any longer, but we were supposed to debut Clean on QVC. Okay. And the then founder of a particular brand that did a lot of, they had only one fragrance at the time and did a lot of flavored bubble baths and things, like body and bath products, stopped us because they were one of the biggest brands on QVC Beauty at the time. And I can remember having a conversation with the buyer at QVC and then calling the CEO of Sephora. I remember being so upset by the whole thing.
I'm sure.
And I thought, okay, well, then I'm going to do what she does, but I'm going to do it in a much different way. And I'm going to make sure it's a multi-sensory experience. And because every single dessert product was kissable, lickable, essentially what we would call today like a clean beauty product or organic even. But when we came up with the tagline, Sexy Girls Have Dessert, and Jessica had just gotten married. There was this angelic sort of halo around her. She was both sexy and pretty and beautiful, and that money shot that people remember. And that's sort of part of beauty, pop culture, which is, they still write about it in InStyle or on BuzzFeed, or an article will pop up, or I'll read something like "The World Was a Better Place" when Dessert Beauty was in it. It's funny. Like, I remember that my daughter read a series of books called The Click, which maybe some of your...
I remember that, yeah.
So they wrote about Dessert Beauty and every single product, how all the girls collected all the Dessert Beauty products. So that was really fun for my daughter Samantha, and she came running over to me and said, "Look, Mommy, the brand is in these books." She also used to say to me, "Mommy, you make everything. Why do you give Jessica all the credit?"
Oh, funny.
Yeah. I say, well, I make more money that way. But
that's so funny.
Yeah.
So I'm going to bring on the featured goddesses. Alyssa would like to ask you a couple questions to start.
Sure. Okay. So I know from watching Shark Tank and knowing some entrepreneurs myself, not being one, but knowing several, that it's a 24-hour job. It is nowhere near a 9-to-5 job. And it's hard enough being a mom, having a family and having a job with normal hours. But, that never stops when it's your company, it's your brand. And so I'm curious how you were able to find any kind of balance in your life when you were doing this. It sounds like you were eating, sleeping, and breathing, your company. And speaking of children, I know that your brands are your babies, right? Your company is your baby. And so I know that we would never admit to having a favorite child. I certainly would never admit that, though day to day it changes. But do you have a favorite brand that you launched? And, if so, why?
That's an interesting question. I guess on the fragrance side, and fragrance is my passion, really. I don't know why, because I never wore fragrance, but I always collected it, especially when I got into niche fragrances, and I still do. CLEAN, I guess, is my baby. Interestingly, when I sold Fusion Beauty, I hadn't been paying attention to CLEAN because First Dessert came along and it was a very, very successful brand. And then Fusion Beauty came along, or Lip Fusion, and then it turned into Fusion Beauty. It evolved. So that became the marquee brand, and everybody was trying to buy it from me. And that's very distracting. I'm not complaining. I'm only saying it's very distracting. Like, the deal process is very distracting from your day-to-day work that you have to do and running a business. So CLEAN was almost like a throw-in. They didn't want my attention diverted away from Fusion and from building Fusion. So it was almost like not valued properly. And today, where's Fusion Beauty? I have no idea. Where's CLEAN? It's all over the world, and it's in every single Sephora store. And, I believe it's somewhere between a $70 and $100 million brand today. So, and that's great. Like, I love that that's my legacy, because I love that I began the brand, and I love that I created fragrances that were all meant to evoke something that I considered in my world to be clean, whether it was the original, which was just really a bar of Dove soap that I carved the logo off. And it sits in a perfume chemist's office under a spotlight in a showcase, because they're so proud to have been the creators of CLEAN. And our favorite laundry detergent, my children's bubble bath, my children's baby soap, my Guess soap, fabric softener, shampoo. We would do extractions and create fragrance after fragrance after fragrance, and then tell a story about that fragrance. And that's how CLEAN actually began. And I thought it would become a lifestyle brand, and registered the intellectual property to do so. But it was really hard to manage that when the other brands also they blew up. And like I said, they didn't want me distracted. So I thought, okay, well, this isn't really where the value is. So take it. And yeah, I would say I don't like to live with regret. I don't really live with regret, but I mean, that's the brand I guess is my baby. Or at least it was a really successful, nice way to enter the industry. It also led to the success with dessert, which had an end date. And that's okay because it did really well. And then Fusion, being the marquee brand, was so scientific and clinical and has given me the opportunity to do what I'm doing right now with Sbla, that, like I said, one thing leads to the other. And when you're successful, the reason that Fusion was so successful and why, Karen, you probably thought it was my first brand, is that because dessert did so well with my manufacturer, they brought me the microsphere and said, if we give this to you exclusively, what would you do with it? And I said, I think I would just start a lip plumper, but there was no such thing as a lip plumper on the market at that time. So it was the first. And if you're first to market with something and you can actually fill white space and create a new category in the industry, just like CLEAN Perfume did, it was not even, clean fragrances were not even on the fragrance wheel until CLEAN was created. And by the way, that woman who blocked me on QVC, she started to describe her fragrance, which was a floral, as a clean shower fresh fragrance. I just thought, what do you mean? So anyways, it's also the most competitive industry that I know of in the world.
Right. So how many formulations did you go through to get to the ultimate clean fragrance?
There were a number of redirects. The first submission, and this was my first go at anything in the beauty industry, the first submission was very rose based. And I just thought, but this isn't how my soap smells. And they explained to me that rose, and I know that now, and I actually loves like very nice rose water, and I collect and use a lot of them. They actually smell very soapy. And it took me a long time to understand that, but I had to cut that rose scent. So what I learned to do initially, because I'm not a chemist, is I would say, can you please wash your hands with the soap that I sent to you? They knew what soap it was, even though I thought it was so mysterious, but it wasn't that mysterious at all. And I said, and smell your hands afterwards. I said, because that's what I'm trying to achieve. I'm not trying to, figure out what's in that bar of soap. I'm trying to recreate the way skin smells after someone's showered or washed with it. So when you can describe that to a really good perfume chemist, that's how you actually can and do create really good fragrance. So I do fragrance by extraction process, which is very different than the way most fragrances are actually created.
I'm so glad I'm next because I come from the cosmetics world. I was an esthetician. I actually worked with some of the brands I think you might be speaking of. So, and when you were talking about the extraction process, I was like, oh, right, all the different layering and different top notes and middle notes. And I'm sure maybe some of our listeners aren't that familiar with all those different layers and levels to fragrance. So can you share a little bit about that? And then, of course, I have my skincare questions I have.
Sure. So, when you first apply a fragrance, you get a whiff of something. And I remember when I got my first submission, my whiff of something was a lot of alcohol. So that I knew had to be cut or had to be changed. And there are different forms of alcohol to use. So you have your top note, which is what you're going to smell first. And depending on the fragrance, there are different, of course, it can be anything. And then you have your middle note, and then you have your dry down or your base note. So that, and then each fragrance lasts a certain amount of time depending on how it's formulated. So it could be water. I wear water-based fragrances or oils. Oils are typically stronger because they're pure fragrance or perfume. And then, of course, perfume is a higher percentage of the actual fragrance combined with whatever the base is, and then eau de toilette and cologne and all of the other kinds of fragrance that you can wear, body mists, etc., are just more diluted and more diluted. But there are different ways to make fragrance. I'm a big believer in water-based fragrance. I don't love using alcohol in anything, unless it's, to kill germs or something like that, or to, to have a clean canvas for an injection, or I don't even know.
I mean, it makes sense. As an esthetician, I could not agree with you more. And you mentioned earlier about how competitive the beauty industry can be. And I wonder, is it competitive more so with women? Are they more competitive towards each other, or is it like a male making women competitive against each other? Like, what makes that competitive edge? Like, how can we be more of a sisterhood that works with each other as opposed to competing against each other? Although I do like the idea of a little competition that made you create something even better than the person that was trying to take the job away from you. But how much stronger did you guys, or you ladies, would have been if you joined forces and PVC and really took it over?
Well, that brand was already quite established, and they weren't just fragrance. They were already bath and body, and they were already skincare, and it doesn't even matter. She doesn't own it anymore, and she made tons of money, and she is a chemist. So, I mean, like, we didn't have much in common with one another. I didn't really want to join forces with her, nor was that even an option. We were very new to the scene with one fragrance and one layering. So when you talked about layering before, I created a layer right away to sweeten the fragrance, because it was soap based. And if somebody wanted an actual little bit more sweetness, or a little bit more of a citrus or kind of element, we created layering fragrances right away. So I do believe in wearing. I will mix up pretty much anything. Other than for myself personally, I don't like anything that's vanilla based. I know a lot of people do. It's just not. I can't do it. So yeah, I don't know what it is. I mean, men like it. They love it.
And pumpkin, apparently. I remember when I worked for Sephora, that was one of the things they said, men love pumpkin pie or something,
or
like
cinnamon rolls. They say
baking.
Yeah, fake goods. So I don't really care about that.
So the vagina smelling candle.
I have it, but it's actually rose based. It's rose based. So
I was wondering.
Yeah, I actually bought it last year in Florida. Yeah. I left it at my place in Florida.
So we talked about, Camille brought up a good point, and you and I talked before about women empowering each other and trying not to be jealous and to support each other and lift each other up. And I know that support, like we feel on Grateful Goddesses, that support is one of the biggest actions a person can take. And we always try and support each other. Did you feel support along your journey?
Well, one of the things I learned initially was that the beauty industry, when I entered anyways, it's a little bit different now, but it was pretty much controlled by men. And the president of Sephora was a man. The president of Estee Lauder was a man. I mean, you name it. It was really controlled by men. I don't know if I should say this or not, but what the hell. The truth is, I've spoken to a lot of, I used to make much more of an effort, and I will again when I have time. But I used to actually speak to business school students quite often, just to talk to. I always felt like if I could inspire, or even at high schools, if I could inspire one person and help them make a decision about the direction that they'd like to take in their life, I always thought to myself, if somebody was dishonest with me, like when I was younger, I may have found my true calling a lot earlier. And I also, there's some women's groups or grad students like doing their MBA, some women would invite me to speak at Ottawa University or different schools, depending where I was. I've been invited to many of the universities across the US as well. I have not taken up all those offers, but I have spoken at a few as a keynote speaker at an MBA event. And I I'm not afraid to tell women to feel you climb the ladder of success in high heels. And if you're lucky, they'll be Jimmy Choo's or Manolo Blahniks. But, to get there, you may bat your baby blues a little bit. Don't cross that line, but don't be afraid, as long as you're keeping it, classy, to, feel empowered and to feel beautiful and to look beautiful. And if that gets your foot in the door, good. It's okay. I mean, that was really the truth for me then, definitely. I was given a lot of opportunities because, I fit that role and that mold at that time period. I entered the industry in 2003. Right. I got my first award, and I'll never forget that feeling. I was in New York, and watching the Lauder family all nicely applaud the CLEAN, newcomer of the year for Women's Wear Daily, and being on the cover, and it was a big deal. So, and I guess in that industry, you have to, I'm not suggesting you have to be a certain way, because it's not true, because you have to be smart and you have to understand how to stand out. And if you don't, it's, like, as I said, it's extremely competitive. So, but my advice to most women is, number one, I always try to elevate any woman that comes to me for advice. I've had women, I've invited them into my home, younger women or girls who are just starting a different brand. Some of them have actually done quite well, and very well, actually. And I don't want to take a piece of anyone's business, and I don't want to compete with them either. And as long as they're not in my space, I don't mind giving them the best advice that I can. And I also don't mind introductions for them. I think that I hope, and I would like to think that somebody would do that for my kids too. My daughter and my son. I think it's always been harder for women. I think that now the industry has changed considerably. I think that female founders are finding it easier to raise capital. I think that female founders are finding it easier to get their foot in the door. And I also think that female founders are being celebrated, whereas that was not the case when I first started. So things have changed.
When we spoke too, just about you coming on the podcast, you were like, yes, empowering women. That's what I want to do. I want to support. And that's what we do here. Michelle, what would you like to ask?
So on that topic, I can really relate. I've always been someone, when I have something good, I want to share it with everybody, like my girlfriends. And that's always been really important. And so I love to hear you say that. It really resonates with me. But I am wondering, so on the flip side, what are some of your roadblocks? Like, what if you, maybe recent ones, maybe things from when you first started out? You seem pretty tenacious, so, which is great. But I'm wondering how you dealt with them.
Oh, there's probably been more than I can even remember that didn't go right. But for the most part, I don't believe, for me, and I'm not suggesting this is the way everybody does things or should do things, but for me, because I'm not in New York, and while I do have U.S. residency status, I didn't then. So I had to go back and forth. I was traveling quite a bit. I had young kids at home. And I was doing a lot of business and I owned several brands that were successful. And then there were transactions. It was so busy. Some of the times I look at things, and I shared a clip of an animation that Sephora did all over the world with Karen last night, but that's just one of a million stories. And it's just, I always feel sometimes, I think sometimes that it's almost surreal, that whole period of time in my life, and how I was so busy. I was too busy to even sit back and actually think about what was happening. I think a big moment where I really kind of realized that oh, this really all kind of matters. because for me, I just thought, this is great. This is fun. Like, I'm enjoying my work, and, I'm trying to find that balance between my work and my family. And I was traveling all over the place and taking the kids as much as possible. And, but when I received my Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year award, like the national one, and then I got an international citation, I saw my parents crying. For me, that was like a big, I don't know, that was like a big deal. And I don't think it's a moment that they're ever going to forget. It's certainly not a moment that I would ever forget. And it was so there were lots of awards and things like that, and industry awards with like everybody from the industry in the audience in New That one was really special. So
what I'm hearing is that you just move forward with things that you loved and were inspired, rather than, seeing those roadblocks and focusing on them. You just kept doing what you love to do.
Right. I have a few philosophies when somebody wants to start a brand, and sometimes I don't, these are strange. Some of them could sound strange. I don't know, because they're personal. But somebody who was very successful in business, who at one point in my life, before I was in the beauty industry, was somewhat of a mentor to me. And I was told, number one, if you're starting to figure out how much money you're going to make doing something before you actually start, you won't succeed. It can never be about that. It has to be about something you feel passionate about, and the money will come. I believe that. I believe that to this day. Also, when you do start something and you start to invest your time and your money, and you are going to make it your career, go out and buy something that feels a little bit out of reach. It feels a little bit reckless, spending whatever it is, whether it's like, depending on what's significant to you, go buy a sports car or lease a sports car, go buy a piece of jewelry or a really expensive purse, whatever it is. Go buy something that's going to make you work a little bit harder because you have to pay for it.
That's a good tip. I like that one. My husband, I don't think would like that one. No. But I like that one.
That's a fun.
But it works. It makes you start to think like, oh, I bought that thing, so I better get to work.
But don't you think that's a form of manifesting as well? Because you're
probably
dreaming bigger,
You're basically, you're determining that you're going to be successful. So yes, it's definitely a form of manifestation. It has to be. Yeah. And then I'm trying to think of what the last one that I would share with you. There was just not about counting, and then about buying something expensive. And then I think it's more about just being, you can't be an entrepreneur if you're not a risk taker. You have to take risk. Filling white space, finding something that you can be first market at. And I work, I don't want to say with blinders on, because I see what happens in the industry and I watch it all, but at the same time, I don't go to the luncheons. I don't hang out with the people in my industry unless I was going to actually accept an award or going to a specific luncheon where I knew I was involved in some way. I skipped all the industry stuff, not because I feel like it's nonsense, but I was already doing enough traveling and leaving home for reasons, all kinds of reasons. And, in the industry, you have market weeks where you're bringing your products to market and you're showing it to buyers, or depending on where you're selling your products. And it's very different now with the digital ads and direct to consumer models and things like that. You have a lot more control over your business and what you want it to be, which I prefer. But it was a lot. I mean, so I sort of I still maintain those sort of philosophies about how to begin, and can't think of anything else to buy though right now. But
we talk often about the money will come. Just think about what you're passionate about. In fact, I just spoke to Camille about that today because she also has a podcast, and we were talking about like, you know, where's the money going to come from this? And it's like, just keep doing what you're doing. Just keep swimming like Nemo and doing what you're happy with. Alyssa was actually going to ask you about mentors, but she has another question for you.
I do. And that just reminded me of my dad used to say, you know, find something you love to do and you'll never work a day in your life.
Right.
You know, it sounds like you obviously just love what you do and don't really see it as work, even though you work really, really hard, obviously.
Well, I mean, I always say they're not going to love every day of anything you do. And I try to tell my kids that too. It's just that's not the way life works. It's just, you know, there are days that are going to feel like, oh, this is ridiculous. I mean, but it's okay. It comes with the territory. As long as in the end, you know, you feel like you accomplish what you set out to.
Absolutely. So it seems to me like in the beauty industry today, we actually, Karen and I live down the street from each other, and just down the street is a Sephora. And I was walking by the other day, and there's this giant, like, you know, takes up like, I don't even know, many, many square feet of window space picture of J-Lo. And she's obviously launching a brand, or the brand exists. I actually don't even quite know, but her brand. And it seems to me today, the celebrity tie-ins, you know, with brands is very key. You know, back in the day you had, you know, Estee Lauder, and, you know, you had these big Revlon and these sort of big brands. And now it's about, you know, celebrities and their brands. And so I'm curious, you've obviously partnered with Jessica Simpson and, you know, other celebrities as well. And I'm curious, sometimes their people come to you, perhaps sometimes you reach out to them, but how do these, I'm just so curious, being such a, you know, layperson in the world of makeup and all that, how do these things develop? How do they happen? And do you think that they're critical right now in the beauty industry to really sort of make it big?
First of all, I'll fill you in on a little bit about the industry. Number one, it's not J-Lo's brand. It's owned by Coty. It's based on, her story is that, and I like J-Lo a lot. Like, I like her music. I don't know her, but her story is that she's never had any injections and she's never had any work done, and she just uses olive oil on her skin. And I go, all right, good luck with that. Nice story. Ridiculous. Sorry, but it's ridiculous. I like Barstool Sports on Instagram. I don't know. I mean, my son likes it, but they actually they took a hit at it. Like, it's that, to me, it's just that silly. You know, the industry's changed. So Sephora used to be all about the indie. I don't know the current president of Sephora. I knew the last president. I knew the president before that very well. The indie thrived at Sephora. So the way Sephora really became significant is they launched independent brands, and they really got behind you if you branded well. They really, you know, I brought them Lip Fusion first. I launched dessert there exclusively, and then I launched Lip Fusion there exclusively. They bought 100,000 units of Lip Fusion, which was just the initial product, the clear lip plumper. And that was like a large order, and it was meant to just be a single SKU item and a single point of distribution with, and then it sold in one day. So, and the units were selling on eBay for like $200 each. It was so crazy. And we ended up selling 3.2 million units in 9 months because we had 2 sellouts. So we only had 9 months of sales in the first calendar year. But even to just stay in stock, Sephora came to me and said, we're going to buy your components in Asia for you, and we'll just deduct it from your invoices when we pay you, but you'll store them and fill them as we need them, because they had the exclusive, and it was such a huge brand. Dessert was the first brand to exceed $10 million at Sephora. LVMH called them. LVMH owns Sephora, by the way. So if you're buying Dior, Fresh, Benefit, I think Pat McGrath, Marc Jacobs, et cetera, you're essentially buying a full margin. That's a full margin sale for Sephora, because, well, or for LVMH essentially, because they own Sephora. They also own duty-free shops. And those brands. They also own Donna Karan. So Rihanna's brand, Fenty, is an example. Sephora owns Fenty. Rihanna, that was never a Rihanna brand. That's a Sephora brand. Ole Henriksen is owned by the spin-off of Sephora called Kendo. So Kendo buys up brands, or will go to Korea, for instance, and buy all those. Remember when all the masks were coming out last year? Everybody had a different mask coming out, a different sheet mask, and in some kind of package, and whether it was kind of like a little bit kitschy or interesting or whatever, just fun to buy, or it had benefits to it, but everything was masks were everywhere suddenly. They were repackaging them, and these are all full margin brands at Sephora now. So, and this is not me dissing Sephora. It's just their business model completely changed. So whether the brands are being fed in by Dior, or the brands are being fed in by Kendo, or their natural arm, Credo. So all the clean beauty, or most of the clean beauty, is coming out of Credo, which is also Sephora. So Sephora had to do that to compete. It's impossible for them to compete today in bricks and mortar with the overhead and everything that they have, without creating a full margin opportunity for themselves. So I get it. I'm just saying it's just changed completely. So whereas Dessert was the first over $10 million brand at Sephora, Fusion was the first over $50 million brand at Sephora. So, it was a joke. I remember having they took me to dinner on my 40th birthday. I was in San Francisco, and then we went up to Napa, and they had a huge meeting in this beautiful boardroom in San Francisco in their head offices. And everybody was there because it was my birthday, and they started to joke around and say, what do you want to sell us? If the brand is called Mared, we'll buy it. That's sort of, how things, that I always say I made a lot of money working with Sephora, and Sephora made a lot of money on my brands. And so it was sort of a match made in heaven. I'm glad I'm not trying to do it today. So it was interesting because I don't know this president, but the last president, who's now president of Lululemon, I had lunch with him, and then he asked me to come back, and he's going to arrange a meeting with the last 2 people there that I know, who's now the head merchant and the head skincare buyer. And I just started I Smell Great, and not the honest advice I got from them is, it's very different here now, Randy. Don't launch here. You're not going to be happy. It's going to be a very different environment for you. And I noticed that the indie brands were not being animated or showcased or anything like the way it used to be. I can remember walking into the Champs-Élysées store, which is, it is humongous, and it's their flagship, and it's enormous, and you can walk in at midnight any day of the week. And the week prior, I had just been animated in the window, and Karen saw that picture, but it was funny because I sent it to my dad at the same time, Karen, and my dad said, where did I see that? I think I saw that in Florida, or no, I saw it in New York, or no, maybe I saw it in Paris. I said, you saw it everywhere, Dad. Like, it was everywhere. It was all over the world. It was so crazy. People were taking pictures. People were seeing me larger than life in the window in every Sephora store, wherever they went, and going, hey, I know her, and taking a picture beside me and sending it to me. It was like crazy time in my life. So I went to that store, and they were animating lip fusion, and every single pillar in the store was decorated to be a lip fusion component. And I mean, like, I don't know, I can't even imagine how high the ceilings are there. And they had lip plumping bars and stations set up, and they had plasma screens before anybody else was even doing this at both entrances, and lips plumping, and the brand was just like all over the place. I'd never seen anything like it, but that's what it used to be like to be a big brand at Sephora and an independent.
This is the photo she's talking about.
So that's me. That's Leslie Blodgett from Bare Essentials next to me. Jonathan Levine from Ghost Smile. I can't remember who was in it. It was called The Masters, but they put me right in the front. And it was pretty, it was really like, it was just trippy. I don't know.
What does that, Alyssa, you wanted to know specifically about connecting with celebrities, right? Like how.
Yeah, celebrity, like I said, I mean, JLo's brand is not, it's not JLo's brand. It's Coty funded, and it's all about storytelling. So it's, the narrative is the whole olive oil thing. Okay. I mean, people are going to buy it, and they're going to hope that they're going to look like J-Lo, and their skin is going to be like J-Lo. And
so it's really, if the celebrity uses the product and is religious about it and really helps to enhance.
I think it's more J-Lo didn't have a beauty brand, and probably I was approached by Coty. I'm sure she's been approached by many other established
right. But for you and your brands, you want someone that's going to represent clean, yes, and to show, that they're using it, and that they. I
never wanted clean to have a spokesperson. It was very important to me for clean to be much more universal. A lot of celebrities use clean, and of course we talked about that, but I didn't want it to be a brand that was fronted by a celebrity face. Dessert was created with Jessica in mind, and with Jessica. The initial products I created, but it was just fun. She had just gotten married. The newlyweds was becoming a big deal. I mean, very pretty girl. I mean, like that. I have the pink bustier downstairs, and the cupcake and the J ring, and that iconic image of her with the icing on her finger, and it's just one of those very interesting things. We put out 33 SKUs of kind of like edible cosmetics that no one's really ever done it since. I even still own the intellectual property around. I think about finding the next dessert girl. Like, should I do it again? Like, would we even have, a real audience? So people still talk about it so much. I mean, I don't see myself going there, but I'm just saying it was just that was fun. And I've worked with everyone. I've worked with Britney Spears. I've worked with Justin Timberlake. I've worked with Jessica Simpson and Nick Lachey. I've worked with Sophia Bush. I've worked with, I was going to do Heidi Klum's line, and I've spoken to lots of other celebrities on the phone, and I just got to the point where I decided, I watched the paparazzi thing happen with Jessica, and it was starting to get very crazy, and it felt very out of control, to be honest. I'd never experienced anything like that in my life, but walking like a red carpet with her, and just, I don't know if anybody's experienced that, but it felt unsafe. Crossing a street with her felt very unsafe. And I remember saying out loud, I'm not doing this again. I did it again, but I didn't like that feeling at all. And I'm working with a celebrity right now, again, even though I always say I'm not going to do this anymore, but I'm working with somebody that, who has been in the industry for a very long time, and who also, who is just had more experience, life experience, I think is the best way to put it. And I haven't announced it yet, but it's so far so good. And it's
well, this won't be airing for a week or two. So do you want to announce it?
Sure. So Christy Brinkley is going to be the face of Sbla.
Wow, I love her.
Yeah, I like her a lot too.
She's amazing.
So she's doing, and it's really nice now because you can do, people do really appreciate, I mean, she was really using all the wands by Sbla and really seeing results.
The neck wands, in case you're wondering.
I've used it.
I want to get one. I think it's such a great idea.
So she uses both neck wands, and she's completely addicted to the face wand. And I know she was just rehearsing like all the things that she wants to do in terms of the videos that she wants to create. And it's great. I mean, we're in a pandemic, so I'm not going to rent a studio and a camera crew and put anybody at risk right now, but you can create really amazing, authentic, content at home right now and put it out into digital ads. And like, I want people to see how at 67 years old, how beautiful she is, number one, because I'm blown away. And she's using the face wand on camera with me, and I'm watching her lines literally disappear before my eyes. And I think, wow, this is gold. I mean, like, how else? I mean, and because it's so authentic and it's so, I mean, she's really using it. She's in her home. She's filming herself using it. I mean, it doesn't get more real than that. Right.
That's what I was saying before. It's like I tell the goddesses too, because we talk about favorite things, which you'll participate in. And I always say, don't bring your sister's jewelry line. Like, you have to love your sister's jewelry line, because people want to know, like, authentic, like, what do you love? What do you use? Remember I asked you, I commented on your photo because you always look great. But there was one photo, your skin just looked so amazing. And I'm like, what do you use? And you got back to me right away with all of your products. I was like, I want skin like hers. Because that's what you want. You don't want to lie about a product you're using that doesn't do it.
And I always say there's two different kinds of women. So there's the kind of woman that you say, like, that's like the cutest top. Where did you get it? And they're like, I don't remember.
Oh,
like, really? You don't remember?
Yeah. We know that, right?
Yeah. And then there's the kind of woman, anybody wants to know anything, I'm happy to share. Like, what's the difference, really?
So I have to say, back to Christy Brinkley, and will she be able to join us on a Grateful Goddess TV live Sunday night?
I would love to ask her. She has adult children who, come and go, but
we'll figure out a good Sunday, because we would love to have her and you, of course, on, and we can talk about.
I'm fine with disappearing. I really don't have a lot of ego in this, believe it or not. I don't, that's not why,
We want you both. We want you both. I mean, when you mentioned Christy, we're like, we have so much to learn from her and from your story. And I know, Camille, I know you had some more questions to ask.
Beauty hacks. I'm sure everybody would love to hear some great at-home beauty hacks, of course, since we have the cosmetic hero here. But I'm also thinking about how cool it is that you decided to go the skincare route, because it's just so much sexier for people to go color or so on. Like, it's easy to just do lipsticks or blushes or whatever. And for you to go skincare, there's so many different, like you mentioned earlier about Estee Lauder, different brands that people are kind of like staples to. Like, what made you realize that even in a saturated market, I'm still going to make my own skincare and just take, I mean, you mentioned the risk taking, but still, like, people are scared to take that first step when there's already hundreds of different lines or already 100 different barbecue sauces or different makeups, but there's not you yet. So, like, what made you make that big jump? Do it.
Well, the first clinical skincare thing that I did was lip fusion, and my manufacturer brought me the microsphere and said, if we give this to you, what would you do? And I made the lip pumper, and like I said, it evolved from there. I think clinical skincare that has a story and really that makes sense and has real science. I mean, I'm interested in the science, and it's very, well, it's not funny, but it's interesting to me because I subscribe to a publication called Beauty Independent, and they're predicting that because of the pandemic, while clean beauty has been at the forefront, because of the pandemic and because of this focus on science, that they're expecting much more of a return to people relying on science. My daughter, she's about to turn 24. She's very into clean beauty. She's checking the ingredients on everything. And one of the things I said to her was, I'm all for it, but I've also seen major brands have major recalls. And because there's microorganisms, or there's just no way to properly test over and over and over again. Once they're in the warehouse and once they're sitting there, you're taking somewhat of a chance. I eat very clean. However, I don't necessarily worry too much about whether my skincare is like verified clean beauty or not. It's just never been a concern of mine. I want something to work and to deliver results. I don't, one of my sayings is, I don't really think the world needs another shade of red lipstick. And so I'm uninterested in color. I don't want to compete with Bobbi Brown, and I don't want to compete with Pat McGrath. I don't want to compete with these color gurus, and then if you look at them and they've, gotten into the skincare business, Bobbi Brown is on highly-lauded. So it's not really Bobbi creating this skincare, but you have to wonder how well does their skincare do? What's the science behind it, really? So I look at the science and I look at what opportunities are. The neck wand, for instance, I'm obsessed with having a young-looking neck. That's my thing. And like I said, I market to the million me's out there. I don't think that's going to change. I think the neck area is the first part of your face or your facial area that's going to show your age. It's the crepiest skin on your body. It's the thinnest skin. There's a lot you can do in your face. You're a little bit more limited when it comes to the neck area. So unless you're willing to have needles in your neck and do all kinds of lasering or have surgery, you're kind of stuck. So I really felt that creating an application device that was antimicrobial and based on real science that I could actually run through clinicals and explain to people, that was white space, because every brand has a neck cream, but it's just a moisturizer. There's nothing in it. Like, I'm not afraid to take shots at the other brands and say, like, where's your science? What is this? What are you doing for the neck that's different than what's being put on people's faces? But you see a lot of perfect faces out there. We can have a lot of different kinds of injections that are no big deal at all.
Yeah, or the new thing is the blue light protection. Also, like, there's always something new that they're trying to do. And I agree with you about the natural or clean, because I'm allergic to a lot of things in nature. So I don't want to put a lot of stuff on my face that might cause a reaction. Or even just recently, they were talking about how some sunscreens are being banned in Hawaii because of how it affects the coral reef. So it's like you have to rechange all your formulas again for that. So that's why I was curious what drew you to skincare. I mean, as an esthetician, obviously, but I started in makeup. It was once I learned it's about the foundation underneath to really show the best makeup, I was sold on skincare, and that became my thing.
At 54 years old, to be honest, I don't wear makeup. I don't wear foundation anymore. I don't know when the last time I put foundation on my skin was. I put a drop of tinted moisturizer into hyaluronic acid serum before I came on the podcast today. This is the most makeup I've worn in quite a while, to be honest.
Well, all of us too, because, are you wearing pants, real pants, or?
I'm wearing like a cashmere pant.
Oh, loungewear. Well, yeah, we're all in sweatpants, pajamas. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the thing. One of the interesting things about the pandemic is I think that women, we're all kind of stuck at home. We're really under quarantine here. So we're really there's all these rules. So, there's no reason for me to put makeup on. So my skin has actually never been better. And I've been able to play with things that I wanted to play with. So I have a hyaluronic acid serum that I love, which is by a Japanese company called Forled. It's expensive, but it's worth it. My skin drinks it up. It penetrates 4 layers deep, they say. I don't know why.
We're all writing this down. Forled.
FORL'Ed, Forled.
We told you and I were texting the other night, and I was like, you need to like start making these videos, like all of these beauty hacks of things that you do, because even just like you shared some stuff with me about the smelling salts, which is so cool.
Yeah, I brought them actually.
Okay, good. That's for favorite things. Let's wait for that.
So here's my question. I've had so many ideas, and then it's intimidating. I don't know anything about that industry. How do you, or whatever industry, like whatever my idea is, how do you, there's for me, there's a roadblock. There isn't, but I make it in my head, or I just have no clue what to do. So how in the beginning, when you, let's say, first started out, how did you even find companies to make your products or figure out how to do it?
I guess, first of all, I don't really believe in barriers to entry. And I think that's a great way to look at it, is just we create our own barriers. Like they don't really exist, number one.
Oh, true.
And I think that if you can overcome that, which is really just about fear, to be honest with you, I think that I started out there was no Google then. It was like Yahoo, and I just started out searching for perfume chemists, and I came across somebody who was like, they were small, and the chemist came out of Calvin Klein, and he had a lot of experience, and I talked about what I wanted to do, and I think I got together with the president of my ad agency, because I had been founder of a .com that Britney Spears and Justin Timberlake she had shares in, and they were the faces of. It was a loyalty program. My background is actually in loyalty marketing. So I went to the president of my ad agency, and she invited the president of no, she's not the president. She was a managing partner of a communications company, which is Dan Cloris Communications. So they actually used to, or they still do actually. They do crisis PR. Her name is Diane Briskin. She just started her own agency, and she's actually doing all my PR now. So Diane and I are working together again, but she's the one that got me into the Luxury Depot, and she's the one that I worked with when I launched CLEAN, and when I actually started my entry into the beauty industry. So I've come full circle. And even the first editorial on CLEAN, which was by Stephen Kajikaro, who wrote for People magazine at the time and was the host of the red carpet. Right? What's that?
Isn't he from Montreal?
Yes.
Yeah.
So he, I didn't know that though at the time, and he was also the host of the red carpet events for, I think, most of the award shows. He sent his editors up to find out more about the fragrance, and I didn't have a clue what was going on. And then I got a call. I was at Saks buying shoes, and I got a call that he was writing about CLEAN Perfume as in the first item in Style Watch, and he did, and he talked about every celebrity, when celebrities still went to these things, that grabbed it and the notes that were in it. And that's why there was a frenzy. And I actually wrote him a note just thanking him because, he launched my career. Interestingly, somehow our families are related way back, and I'm from Montreal originally. So, I follow him, and he's, I'm thankful to this day. I've never spent any time with him or really speaking with him, but I ended up being interviewed in my home. People sent photographers to my home. I guess this is around 2008. And they did that same feature, and the editor, new editor, Stephen wasn't with People any longer, and they did the whole section about me. And I said to the editor, you know that this column, people launched my whole career, and I told her about the whole story, and she said, I know, I was there. So I just thought, oh, that's so, I got chills when she said that, only because I didn't know, and I didn't remember, anybody else being there, and I didn't even really realize what was even happening to me. But my whole life changed that day. And I guess that's kind of part of it, right? Like, it's just like, I think a lot of things are sort of just meant really to be, and are kind of just, and that's why I don't believe in barriers to entry. I think that if you really want to do something, just get online. There's so much information. Just don't buy anything from Indonesia or China or something like that and expect it to be exactly what you want, unless you're speaking to an actual factory and they can actually speak English and speak with you. I've had bad experiences trying to do that kind of thing. So when it comes to devices and things like that, I can understand why you would have felt a little bit paralyzed. It does become more complicated.
Yeah.
If you can make something domestically somehow in the US or in Canada, I think you're a lot better off, at least a prototype.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you took risks, you had confidence, you were inspired, you had mentors, you worked hard. I mean, you continue to work hard. Like, you told me that you're up till 3-4 in the morning.
Yeah, always.
Constant. But you're still there for your family. I mean, I was telling the ladies that, like, I remember you at Visitors Day at camp, because our girls went to camp together, and you were all there full on. Like, so you've managed to balance. So I was reading this book actually by Robin Sharma, The Greatness Guide. It's so funny because it was on my bookshelf earlier. And I was like, oh my gosh, well, I'm having Randi on. She talks about greatness. And I came across this quote: greatness in business as well as in life comes by being an inspirational human being and walking the talk. And that's what you seem to do. You use your products, you walk the talk, you know what, like, I love when you said there's a lot of me's out there and I want to make the product for the me's, the other me's out there. And I've used the I Smell Great. You do smell like you come out of the shower. It's really refreshing. Clean.
You're talking about clean. Yeah.
So thank you so much, Randi, for joining us on Grateful Goddesses and teaching us all of these amazing, inspirational, empowering lessons that we need to learn. And I know our listeners, viewers, and readers of the blog will be totally inspired to get up off the couch and start doing something that they can do. Like, we will empower each other. Thank you for joining us.
It's been my pleasure.
Up next, favorite things. Opening up to happiness and joy.
Welcome, everyone, to Favorite Things with our guest, Randi Shinder. And one of my favorite things, it's kind of like an adult show and tell. I actually was going through some photos, and I have these spread out all over my house, and it was so funny. These are the photo booth photos. And, when you go to bar and bat mitzvahs or weddings, we all know these, right? They can pile up, and they're with friends. And it was really coincidental. I swear to God, I came across this one in my daughter's room.
Oh, that's my daughter and your daughter.
That's right. I hope it's okay. I'm showing it.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. So I came across this one and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm actually interviewing Randi tonight. And it's so funny because they're all over the place, right? Like, they pile up everywhere. And I was like, wow, this is Happy 4th of July, which is so funny because your daughter's living in Florida now, yes. Right? And I just find these make me so happy because they're so silly. I got to figure out what to do with them because they're kind of like, it's kind of like that sweatshirt you get at a bar and bat mitzvah. They're like filling up the drawers, but I have tons of these. But they just
like little Tiffany bowl right next to me. What do I have in them? Me and my kids. Like,
yeah, I love these. We have to figure out a good way of displaying them, but we'll see. Alyssa, what did you bring tonight?
Okay, so we're talking about clean beauty, and I went with like literal clean, and I am today, this is the Jenny Patinkin Luxury Vegan Makeup Brush Soap. So I hate cleaning my makeup brushes more than anything. Thankfully, I'm not wearing a lot of makeup these days. So I don't have to clean them as much, but I love this because, and I know Jenny for many, many years, she's a Chicago girl. This is made with coconut milk. It's fragrance free. It's antibacterial, antimicrobial. It's all that good stuff. And it's literally like a soap. And I love, instead of like sitting there like and shampooing and hand washing all of your brushes, you wet your brush and you zhuzh it around. So the technical term, you zhuzh it around in here. It gets kind of dirty and soapy, but then you just like run this underwater and it's perfectly clean again. And it's so easy. And anyway, I do it like now, like without, it's hassle free. And I feel like all of my brushes, just air dry them and good to go. So when I do start wearing makeup again.
I thought you were going to show your gua sha.
So I was also going to show, I didn't want to take up the whole favorite things, but as my new favorite thing from Karen as a birthday gift is also, Jenny's getting a lot of press here. The Jenny Patinkin gua sha, what is it?
Gua sha,
Gua sha, which is this awesome rose quartz like face moisturizer. It's drainage, like drains your lymphatic system. It makes you less puffy. It's also really good massage and it's cold and I love it. So put some oil on your face or serum and then you sort of like drain away and sort of do that in the morning and you feel refreshed. And
there's also a
roller.
Doctor, what's her name again? It's a Doctor something brand, but she does a
Is that it?
Gua sha that's electronic, so it actually vibrates.
Oh, Camille brought that.
No, I have it though.
Oh,
did you?
Oh,
that's so funny.
Jamie, I have that
it
one.
vibrates and everything. My friend was an influencer for her, and so
show us, how does that work?
Yeah, so it's the same. Unfortunately, I didn't charge it with my USB but it vibrates. It'll be cold naturally, but it can also heat up. Right. And I did it. I wasn't sure if I did it before, but before I did the eye one with you guys, right?
Right. The roller.
It's the roller for the eye, and then they have this one, but it doesn't have any serums or anything in it, so you still have to put your own serums and so on. But I like it. It's kind of as I drop it, kind of loud. I will admit that it can be a little loud. So my husband's always like, "Wait, what are you doing in there?" And I'm like, "It's just the facial thing. Don't get excited." So I will warn that.
You just say I'm watching Bridgerton. I can't talk right now.
Yeah, Bridgerton. Yeah, for sure.
Tell me about it.
Camille, is that one of your favorite things, or did you bring something else?
That is one of my favorite things. So I was like, I had brought that, but then when you were talking about the pictures, I was like, oh, I want to keep that around too.
I know,
so
everyone has these.
But yeah, I brought these, my little,
okay.
So I have that gua sha, I don't know how to pronounce it.
Gua sha.
And I also have the roller, the eye one that Camille showed you last time. So I have both of them. I like them just because it's faster. It's just easier to use. I also have the rose quartz gua sha as well. I have it from, there's a company called Creme Beauté. One of their creams just sent me a huge swag box. They have a bee venom cream that's really interesting too. I've been using that.
We need to get a list of all of these to put on the website of all of your recommendations, honestly.
Yeah. Well, that's Michelle, like a new big find of mine. It's like an amazing winter product because I haven't had to deal with winter for 6 years now. So this is my first. I'm not so impressed. But I'm home and the heat's on and my skin was drier. And
oh, come on. You grew up in Montreal where it's freezing.
No, I know. But my kids both went to the University of Miami. So
I know.
And my parents were up north. So I thought in Florida. So I just thought, what am I doing here? This is so stupid.
So it's actual bee pollen?
Yes, it's called bee venom. And it actually is meant to sort of be like almost like a topical Botox, but it's really, I mean, your skin really absorbs it. And they have one with rose as well that I wear during the day, which is lighter. So I put my forehead serum on and then I put that on top. And ever since I started using that, I really, really have not needed any foundation. It just really smooths out your skin. It's both, I mean, I'm in heaven with my skincare regimen right now. So the pandemic's been good for me in that way. But
for sure. Michelle, what did you bring?
So I brought, it's a little patch that I put underneath my belly button. It's by a company called LifeWave. I don't know if you can see that. And it's a product, there are several different ones, but this one is X39. And the reason why I started using it is because I'm a terrible sleeper. I haven't slept in days. So I haven't used it lately. But when I'm using it regularly, I feel refreshed. It works with your stems. It stimulates your stem cells. And
I need that very badly. Whatever that
amazing.
is.
It's really,
wow,
really
I've
great.
never heard of that.
Oh, I've been using it for maybe a couple of months now, and it is life-changing.
Can you just get it on Amazon or?
No, I happen to know a distributor.
Yeah, what's the name, Michelle?
The company's called LifeWave, and this product is X39, but they do a whole series, and when you buy one, they often throw in like a ton of samples. I can, I got it through this woman, and I'm happy. She's very knowledgeable, and I'm happy to share. Actually, I want to get her on the show too. She's great. But I just feel alive.
Well, Michelle, I'm going to get one for Randy. So Randy, I'll get your address and send one to you.
Yeah, you'll love it. It's great. It just, even if I'm exhausted, it just really helps me feel alive, and just, I think it's just very healing, and it works with your own body. So there's no chemicals. You're not putting anything into your body. It works with.
Do they have an I am awake one? I have energy one? Or how about I feel sexy tonight one?
Yeah, baby. Well, you know what you do though, because by feeling healthier in general, it just sort of stimulates, you're able to.
Sleep and water, definitely. With sleep and water, I mean, those are key for beauty, wouldn't you say? Right. Randy, what did you bring?
I brought a couple of things that I talked to you about the other day. So one is, these are crystal clear smelling salts. Company's called, I need my glasses, sorry guys. It's a French name. It's called Rogue O'Neill, and it's therapeutic. So I don't know if you can see it, but you see that they're all different kinds of salts, and so they're called crystal clear smelling salts, and they're meant to clear your head, your mind, and my daughter loves them. I love them, and I mean, they're just they smell just very interesting. They're not. It's not offensive. There's some natural scents, or I don't know, whatever you want to call them, like those spa scents where I start to sneeze. Like I can't actually, I'm so sensitive to smell, but these really do kind of clear your head. It says something here about inner light here, but I'm like addicted to these things, and they sell out quite often on the company website, or sometimes Cult Beauty has them as well. And that's in the UK, but they ship everywhere. And then they have a spray that's called an aura spray, a Restore Aura spray. So, and this also smells great. You can spray it in your environment, or you can spray it right onto your skin. Again, it's not offensive in any way. Smell a bit of rose in it. I'm not really too certain. And it's, I guess it's all essential oils and whatever their combination is. And then they have what's called a calm balm. And you can put it on your temples, or you can put it on your wrists. And I just typically just do this with it and take like a deep breath. This has like it's very, I don't know, like I guess it's meant to calm you. And I didn't bring them, but I also use the array capsules. I can't remember what happened, but something not great happened a little while ago. And I remember my daughter just turning to me because she got me into the array capsules, and she loves all these, therapeutic and natural herbs and things, and ashwagandha and whatever else is in them. I think there's 3 ingredients in the array ones, and Melissa Wood Health talks about them a lot. There's a deep bloat one, which is really interesting, because if your stomach feels very full after you eat, and you take their anti-bloat one, you will find your stomach flattens out like within a half an hour.
Wow.
And the calm ones, they do work. You could take 3. I can't remember what happened. I'm trying to think what happened. And I got a phone call. Something to do with somebody needing a COVID test or something crazy like that. And before I could even respond or react, my daughter handed me, Mommy, and she handed me 3 capsules with a bottle of water, and I just swallowed them. It's like, just walked away. And, just, they work. They just settle you down a bit. So,
well, those will all be listed on the blog for sure. Have you always been this into smells? I'm noticing that, like, you love smells.
Yeah, I do.
Ever since you were younger, too. Do you remember?
I remember, and I talked about this, I think with you, another interview. I could be confused at this point, but my mom used to collect all these perfume bottles, but I don't really remember her having a particular signature scent. And when my parents would go out, I'm the eldest of 3, so I would be in charge. And I used to sit at my mother's vanity and play with all the perfume bottles as though they were Barbies, like, depending on what they looked like. Some were girls and some were boys. And I don't really remember what I did or, whatever, but I used to organize everything all the time. So I was always very taken with fragrance and fragrance bottles. And I don't know why. It's just one of those things. And when I think about why I love skincare and stuff, my late grandmother on my dad's side, she was from Ottawa, and she used to come and stay with us in Montreal when my parents would go out of town. And she had porcelain skin, perfect skin. And she used all the land products, which at the time were considered expensive, and that was considered prestige beauty. So she used to teach me, like a little kid, I don't know why she was teaching me this, but she used to teach me to clean my face, to cleanse it with this cleansing milk, and then we used water, but no dirty towels or washcloths. Once it was clean, only tissue to dry it. And then she would show me how to use it. She showed me how to use a toner and I don't even know if I remember. She told me what toner did, and then the eye cream and then the moisturizer. And I had all kinds of gunk on my face as a little kid. So, there's that. And I used to watch her do her makeup, and she was meticulous, and she would do her makeup, and she closed her makeup bag, and she had a rule. Once her makeup was done and she got into the car, she never checked her makeup again for the rest of the evening. Once she was done, she was done. So she never ran to the bathroom with a little makeup bag and changed things. Once she felt that it was good enough, that's the way it was. And I had 2 grandmothers who always had perfectly manicured nails. I'm not so happy about my pinky right now, but these are mine. And for some reason, good nails run in my family on both sides. So I don't know. I guess I was just surrounded. My mom's mom worked at Holt Renfrew, and so she was surrounded by it. She was very stylish and very beautiful, and so just surrounded by women that were into their beauty regimens, and how they put themselves together all my life.
No, you never shared that story, and I'm so glad that you did, because again, it's so inspirational. And I guess it's like being a good role model too for your daughters, like to show them, how I know my younger daughter will kill me, but she's got really great skin, but she hardly washes her face. And I'm like, you need to cleanse your face. You'll see, like you have, laying in the sun. Or laying in the sun, I'm always like, no, put sunscreen on, like, you'll see. So anyway, thank you. And I do want to say one thing, and this might be a risk, but you may want to consider making a goddess scent fragrance in the future.
I would love to make a goddess
never
scent.
know.
I'd love to make a functional fragrance for goddesses, to be honest, but I have to wrap my head around that one, so I might need some input.
We can talk about that. But thank you again for joining us on Favorite Things.
Thank you for having me so much. It was really fun.
Unleashed your inner goddess yet? Thanks for joining us today on Grateful Goddesses. We invite you to visit our website, www.gratefulgoddesses.com to access today's show notes as well as other helpful resources. Don't forget to leave a review. Until next time, stay strong and empowered to be a grateful goddess.